Do you want to learn how you can create an API which allows you to send emails to your customers? In this video, that is exactly what we're going to learn how to do. Hi guys, I'm Sam with Complete Coding, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how we can use API Gateway, AWS Lambda and Amazon's simple email service to allow us to create an API that can send emails to our customers. So let's jump into the code and see how we can do that. In the code, there are two things that we need to do. The first thing is create a new file in the endpoints folder for send email, and then configure our serverless file to allow us to have that API endpoint and add the permissions to the Lambda to send emails. So if we go into endpoints and create a new file and call it sendemail.js. Inside here, we're going to be using a lot of the common code. So if we go into something like get user and copy the first couple of lines and paste them in here. So we've got responses, and then we're opening up the handler with an event. We're console logging out the event, and we're going to close off that function. So in here, we need to first get the data that we're going to be sending over email. This is going to be sent up in the event body, which we then need to parse, so we can then destructure it. We can use destructuring like this, so const object. We're going to have a to email address, a from, so these are the addresses that we're sending it from and to, a subject, and finally some text, which is going to be the text of the email. This is all going to be parsed from the email body, so JSON parse event.body. And now we have all of these parameters. We need to make sure that we have all of the valid values for these. So if there is not to, or not from, or not subject, or not text, then we're going to return a failed response. So responses._400, and that's going to have a message of to, from, subject and text are all required in the body. And we're going to return that response. Now that we know that we have all of the values, we can then create the parameters that we pass into the Amazon simple email service. So const params is an object with a destination. This destination defines who we are sending it to, and so we have an array of two addresses, so two addresses, which is an array. In our case, we're only sending it to one address, which is the to email address. As well as that, we then need to define the message. That message has first a body, and we're defining the text value of that body, which has a data field of the text that we are passing in. So this text here gets passed in as the data value for text on the body. If we wanted, we could also define the body in HTML, but for now we're going to be sticking with text. As well as that, the message also has a subject, and that has a data field again of the subject that we are passed from the event body. The last thing we need to define is the source. So the source this is the email address that we are sending it from. So from. With this all complete, we can now go into creating the send email functionality. So to send an email, we first need to scroll all the way to the top of our file and import Amazon AWS SDK, and then create a new instance of the simple email service. So const AWS equals require, and we're requiring in the AWS SDK. As well as that, we need to set the SES equals a new instance of aws.ses, and that is everything set up at the top. Now we can scroll back down to after the parameters, and we can send those email parameters. So ses.send email, and pass in the parameters. And for us, we're also going to add on .promise to turn it into a promise. Because it is a promise, we need to await it. And now there is some extra logic that we need to think about. If this succeeds, then we want to send a 200 response. If it fails, we want to send a 400 response. The way we're going to do that is with a try catch. So we're going to start a try. We're going to put await inside the try catch and the return inside the try as well. So if it is successful, then it's going to carry on through to the return statement. So responses dot 200 for a successful response. And we don't need to pass any data because it is a successful email response. Then we need to catch if there is any errors. And inside this catch statement, we want to first log out what the error was. So console.log error sending email, and then log the error itself. As well as that, we want to return a 400 response. So return responses._400. And this time we do want to send back a message of the email failed to send. So if it's successful, it will send the email, and if it fails, it will give a 400 response saying the email failed to send. So if we save this file, we can now head over to Serverless to configure this new endpoint and add the permissions. In our serverless file, if we scroll down to functions and to the end, we're going to take this one here, the create file, and copy it as a template. If we paste it in, we then need to change a couple of things. We can change the create file to send email, and make sure that the handler is now Lambda's endpoints send email.handler. In the event, the path can be just send email. As we don't need any path parameters, we need to make sure that it is a post method and the cause is true. So we can save that, and that is the endpoint configured. Because we are using Amazon SES, we need to add in the permissions for this Lambda to send emails using SES. So we scroll back up to our provider and our I am role statements, and we add a new action, SES : star, which will allow us to send SES emails. Now this is all done, we can go into our terminal and run SLS deploy, which will deploy this new API endpoint. This takes a little bit of time, so this is a great time to make sure you hit that like button on this video, as it helps more developers like yourselves get to see this video. Now that Serverless has finished deploying, we can scroll up and see our new send email URL. Unfortunately, we can't hit this right away, as there's a little bit of configuration in the Amazon console that we need to do first. If we head over to our management console, we can then search for simple email service and go into there. In here, we need to activate the email address that we're going to be sending from. This is implemented to stop people from sending emails from an address that they don't own. So we need to go into email addresses and verify new email address. And in here, we need to input the email address that we want to send from. In my case, it is serverlessfullstack@gmail.com, and hit verify this email address. It tells me that I'm going to get an email sent to my account, and if I check in my inbox, I can see I have an Amazon Web Service email verification request. If I open that up and click the link inside, this is going to open up the Amazon SES successful message, which means that our email address has been verified. We can now close that and delete that email and go back into our console. If we refresh this, we can now see that the serverlessfullstack@gmail.com is now verified. This means that we can send emails from this email address and to this email address. So what we want to do is go back into our code, copy that URL, and head over into Postman. Inside Postman, we need to paste that URL, change the request to a post, select our body, and of course we're going to be selecting raw JSON body. We need to input the parameters. So I'm going to put in the serverless full stack email address. From, I'm also going to send the serverless full stack email address. The subject, I'm going to send test email. And finally, the text is going to be, hi there, this is a message sent through my API. Now, if we send this, we should wait a second and we get a 200 response. If I now head over to my email address, refresh the page, sometimes they don't come through into our normal inbox, but come through into spam. And here we go. We've got a message from the serverlessfullstack@gmail.com with a subject of test email and the message of, hi there, this is a message sent through my API. If we want, we can now report this as not spam, and we'll see it in our inbox. You may be wondering why I sent it to and from the same email address. Well, that's because that is the only email address that we have verified on our account. If we want to send our emails to a customer who hasn't had their email address verified, we need to go through one extra step. Back in our Serverless SES console, if we go on to sending statistics, we can now see that there is this request sending limit increase. This is because all Amazon SES accounts are created in a sandbox mode at the start. If we want to send to anyone else, we hit request a sending limit, which will open up the support page of Amazon services. We need to select a service limits increase and an SES sending limit increase. This means that they need to approve your account and the information you enter here so that you can send emails to any customers. You can choose which kind of mail you're going to be doing, whether it's a subscription messaging, outbound marketing, transactional. You can input your website and a description of how you will comply with the AWS services, how you gather the emails, so it might be they've signed up to my email list or they entered some details on a website form, how you will receive bounce and complaints. These are all optional, but the more information you provide, the more likely they are to add this to your account. In the request, we need to select the region in which we want to have this activated. And finally, the case description, which is telling AWS why you need this limit lifted. Once you've entered all of that and submitted it, it will take up to 24 hours for them to determine whether that is a valid case and either accept or deny the case limit. I've actually already done this, so I'll show you what it looks like. So once you've had your service limits increased, you have now a new sending quota. I can send up to 50,000 emails every 24 hours, and I can see how many I have sent. This now means that we can go back into our request and we can actually send a different to email address. So I'm going to enter my other email address. And hit send. This again has succeeded, and I will also receive that email in my new inbox. So in my inbox, I now have an email from Serverless Full Stack with test email saying, "Hi there, this is a message sent through my API." This now means you can send emails to anyone you would like. This doesn't mean that you should go around spamming emails to lots of people, as they can revoke your access. But now you can send emails to your subscribers, to people who sign up for newsletters, or fill out forms on your website asking for information or data. In this video, we have learned how we can use API Gateway, Lambdas, and Amazon's simple email service to set up an API that allows us to send emails to our customers. This is great as it allows us to send emails when people have signed up through forms or any other service where we might need to contact them once they've signed up. We've learned about some of the limitations and that we need to apply to get a service limit on our account so that we can send to any customer that enters their email address. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up because it helps the YouTube algorithm find more developers like yourselves who this video might be useful for. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so that you find out when I next upload a YouTube video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again next time.